What I find interesting about Theon Greyjoy becoming Reek in the A Song of Ice and Fire books is it really is, in reality, he's not the only Reek in the story. In fact, the first Reek we meet is the personal servant of Ramsay Snow, filling a similar role Theon one day will. Now, this original Reek never made it into the TV adaptation of A Song of Ice and Fire, and while this is one of the very few omissions I don't really have an issue with, as the way the story is adapted in the show works fine without the original Reek, I still think this original Reek is fascinating, especially given how Theon's character develops into the new version of Reek as the story progresses. It really tells us more about Theon's descent into Reek. Also, we gain a lot of information about Ramsay and his psychology from it as well. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the original version of Reek, his role in the story, and discussing why he was cut from Game of Thrones. The original Reek is a man-at-arms in the service of House Bolton, but more Ramsay Snow in particular. While we don't know his age or his real name for certainty, it's suggested it could in fact be Hiki. Reek is the personal servant of Ramsay, and is reportedly never far from his master, and almost as renowned for his cruelty as Ramsay is. It also appears he practices necrophilia, which is not something even Ramsay has fallen to as of yet. Due to his stench, he is rumoured to never bathe, and thus where the name Reek comes from. However, according to Lord Roose Bolton, Reek always smells appalling, apparently born with a condition that caused it. It is said that to try and hide the smell, Reek bathed 3 times a day and wore flowers in his hair, but nothing helped. Reek once doused himself with perfume stolen from Roose's second wife, Bethany, but when he was caught and whipped, it is said even his blood smelled bad. According to Roose, Reek tried again a year later, this time almost dying from drinking perfume. Although Maester Uthor diagnosed the stench as a result of some sickness, Reek was otherwise healthy and strong. No one in the Dreadfort could stand to be near him, so he slept in the pigsty, which in turn did little to help with the smell. When Ramsay's mother came to the Dreadfort and asked for a servant to help raise her unruly and wild son, Roose gave her Reek as a jape. However, Ramsay and Reek became inseparable. According to Roose, Reek never had any training in arms, though he was Ramsay's tutor in martial prowess, which explains Ramsay's vicious and overly aggressive style of swordsmanship. Reek stayed with Ramsay even after Ramsay was brought to the Dreadfort in 297 AC and was made the unofficial heir of House Bolton. From that time on, Ramsay and Reek became infamous in the region for the hunts they undertook together. They caught peasant girls, then set them free, and then told them to run for their lives. The pair then chased after the girls until they caught them, with Ramsay sexually assaulting them and then killing the girls. Then, Reek would have his way with the dead bodies, while they were still warm. Only a few of the girls ever escaped to tell of the horror. During the events of Clash of Kings, when Lady Donella Hornwood arrives at Winterfell for the Harvest Feast, in a meeting with Sir Roderick Cassel, Maester Lewin, and Bran Stark, she tells of Ramsay Snow massing men at the Dreadfort and mentions the stories of Ramsay and Reek. Lady Donella states the following: "The boy is a sly creature by all accounts. He has a servant who is almost as cruel as he is. Reek they call the man. It is said he never bathes. They hunt together, the bastard and this Reek, and not for deer. I've heard tales, things I scarce believe, even of a Bolton." On her way back to Hornwood, Donella is abducted by Ramsay and forced to marry him, with him now calling himself Lord of Hornwood. Ramsay locks Donella in a tower while she starves to death. It is said that Reek participated in the crime. Ramsay and Reek are pursued by men sworn to Roderick Cassel, and they are eventually caught during one of their hunting trips, which involved Ramsay sexually assaulting and then killing a girl. Reek's horse is lame, so both cannot escape. Ramsay, in an attempt to hide his true identity, pulls Reek off the dead body and gives him his own clothes and markings of his identity, telling him to ride for help to the Dreadfort with the good horse. Roderick's men kill Reek, believing him to be Ramsay. The dead girl had soiled herself before she had died, so Ramsay smears the filth over him and dons Reek's clothes. When Roderick's men come back, they take Ramsay to be Reek and drag him back to Roderick. who brings him as a prisoner to Winterfell. Despite the death of this first Reek, it is not the end of the story of Reek, before the title was given to Theon Greyjoy. During the capture of Winterfell by Theon Greyjoy, his men find Ramsay still posing as Reek in the dungeons. He continues to play the role of Reek, saying his real name is Hiki. Theon increasingly relies on the wretched creature, even going as far to accepting his suggestion to fake the deaths of Bran and Rickon Stark. Theon eventually sets him free, after Reek promises to bring him men from the Dreadfort to support Theon. Reek brings the Dreadfort garrison to Winterfell and betrays Roderick's host in the battle at Winterfell. Reek uncovers his true identity as Ramsay to Theon and orders the sack of the castle. During a dance with dragons, Ramsay, no longer using the alias of Reek, imprisons Theon at the Dreadfort and insists upon calling him Reek. Theon's identity is eventually lost to the pain and torture at the hands of Ramsay until only this new Reek remains. However, after Ramsay and Theon move to Winterfell, Theon Greyjoy starts to recover his previous identity and flees from the castle with Jane Poole, who was forced to marry Ramsay, feigning to be Arya Stark. Meanwhile at the Wall, Jon Snow receives a letter from Ramsay demanding the return of his bride and his Reek. I find Reek and Ramsay's relationship very interesting. It's clear they were very close given how Reek acted almost as an elder brother figure to Ramsay. Yet, given Ramsay's treatment of Theon, crafting him into a new Reek, and his demand of Jon Snow to return his Reek, really gets across how Ramsay sees Reek as almost his property, or more of a pet. I find the following quote by Ramsey Bolton very telling. "I do wonder though, was it Ramsay who corrupted Reek, or Reek Ramsay?" It opens up the idea that Ramsay may have been at one point, as a child, a bit more balanced than he is as an adult, with his more extreme parts of his nature picked up from his relationship with Reek. You can see this idea that Ramsay sees Reek as almost a pet in his treatment of him while being pursued by the Cassel men. He very happily sacrifices his apparent only friend to ensure his own escape. Now, as to why he was cut from the TV show, I think this one is a bit more straightforward than many of the other cut characters. I do believe he was cut really down for time, and to allow for more focus on the aspect of Theon Greyjoy becoming Reek. The trouble is, most of the interaction with a real Reek happens off page, and is stated by other characters. It would mean introducing Ramsay in a less impactful way than he is when we first meet him in the dungeons of the Dreadfort with Theon Greyjoy, so it kind of makes sense they would take this approach. What do you guys think about the cutting of Reek, and who do you think influenced who? Ramsay Reek or Reek Ramsay?